Okay, this is for lesson 2 for module 4. And today what we're going to be doing is creating a right angle template, for a better word. So you can see here I have just a round piece of paper, and you can use any piece of paper to create a right angle. And simply by folding it once, making sure we have a nice good crease here. And then what we want to do is we want to take this and we're going to fold this again, but we want to make sure those two edges are lined up really carefully. And you can see here that we have a ray going this way and a ray going this way, and I'm going to mark those so I can see them a little bit better. There we go. And so I have those two rays. And what they make is looks like, well, you tell me, or talk to somebody at home. What does that look like right there? Hopefully you said it looks like a square corner. And I can go ahead and I can mark that because it is a square corner. I'm going to mark it with a little square right there in the corner, but we know the corner as another name. And if you can remember from yesterday's vocabulary, that is called the vertex. The vertex. So this is a right angle, whether it's facing to the right or whether it's facing up or to the left or down. It doesn't really matter which way it faces because it is a right angle. And basically all that means is that it measures 90 degrees. Now if we had a protractor, we would be using that to measure, but since some of you may not have a protractor, we're going to just do it this way. So we have our right angle. And what we want to do is we want to make some comparisons. And before we make comparisons, I bet you could look around your house right now and find some right angles around your house. It might be the corner of a cabinet, or the corner of a door, or a window, maybe even a picture frame. So think about what other right angles can you find in your house right now. So as you're thinking about that, I'm going to take my book, my Module 4 book, and I'm going to turn to page 13. Page 13 here. And it says Lesson 2 Template. And you'll see there's lots of angles on here. And this is where we want to start comparing angles. And we want to determine whether the angle is equal to our right angle that we created, whether it's smaller or less than, or greater than. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to start with the letter A. And I'm going to place this vertex right inside this angle here, making sure that I line up one of the rays with one of the sides of my template that I made. And I noticed that the other side, the other ray, matches the other side of my template. So I know that that is a right angle. So I could say that angle A, even though it doesn't have the square corner, I know that is a right angle. Okay, so I want you to look at all of these angles. There's 6 or 7, 8 of them, I'm not sure. How many right angles are there? Or which ones do you think are a right angle? So you can look at them and possibly pick one out. Like I'm seeing, letter E looks like a right angle. So if I test it and I put my right angle template that I made, it looks like it matches up pretty good here. So I would say that letter E, angle E, and that's something else that I didn't really talk about yesterday, is sometimes we call an angle just by the vertex letter. So I'm going to go ahead and call this a right angle. So I'm going to mark that with a right. I'm just going to put the word right. Now this one I notice is not a right angle. And I can see clearly that, well, if I line up this ray right here with this side of my template, I get my vertex. Make sure your vertex is right there as well. I don't see the other ray on this side. So in fact, it's kind of hidden behind it. So that means it's, well, is it greater than or less than? I know it's not equal to. I would say that it is less than. And so today's part of our vocabulary today, we have learned that we have a right angle. And that measures, I'm going to write this down, exactly, and this is what the definition on your definition sheet said yesterday, measures exactly 90 degrees. And we make a little degree. It's the same degree mark that we would use, same symbol I should say, that we use when we measure temperature. But this time we're not measuring temperature, we're measuring an angle, and we measure it in degrees. So we know a right angle measures exactly 90 degrees, makes a square corner, because we've talked about that. In fact, if I measure it, if I mark it or measure it to my book, this book has a nice square corner right here, the pages. In fact, if I don't have this template, I could probably, like I have a Post-it note here, I could use a Post-it note and I could put the corner right in there, and that matches pretty well right there. So again, letter D here, it's less than. In fact, I can see, it's probably hard for you to see here, but I can see the ray behind the yellow paper here, the Post-it note. So angles that are smaller or less than 90 degrees, less than 90, or a right angle, we call acute angles. And I like to think of small little puppies or kittens, and they are so cute when they're small because they're acute. They're small. So that's sort of an analogy that I make to remember what an acute angle is. So I can go ahead and mark that as an acute angle. And then I get to letter B here. I skipped over B and C. If I look at B, it looks like a right angle when I just look at it with my eyes, but when I actually put the template on it, I noticed that this ray disappears behind it, and so it's really close to the 90 degrees, but it's actually a little bit less. So again, this is an acute angle as well. So you can see that acute angles can take different shapes, or sizes I should say. They're the same shape, but different sizes. Right angles will always be the same size. Acute angles will be, they can vary. And then, let's pick a different one here. This letter H right here. I noticed that if I line up my template, try to get the shadows out of the way here. I have this ray lined up on the left, but this ray on the right, it doesn't match here. It's actually not less, it's actually more than. So it's greater than, because if it were right here, that would be a right angle, but it's greater. So this would be, we know it's greater, a third type of angle, and it is called an obtuse angle. And this is more than 90 degrees, or more than a right angle. So I'm going to go ahead and label that as obtuse. And I can see another obtuse angle here. Looks like letter I is also obtuse. If I put my right angle here, yeah, it clearly goes beyond the right. So this would be an obtuse as well. So again, I can see that obtuse angles, they can take different sizes as well, the same way acute is. So those are now three different types of angles. Now there is a fourth type of angle that's not on this page. And I'm wondering if anybody who has looked at the vocabulary from yesterday can identify what angle we're missing. And I bet some of you can. I'm going to draw one right here at the top. I'm going to use my straight edge that I used yesterday. And if I were to mark the points A, B, and C on it, this would be an angle because I have a ray starting at B going through C and to the right, and I also have a ray that is going from B through A to the left. But you might say, well, that's a line, Mr. Chaplin. And you're right, it is a line because it is a straight line. It goes in opposite directions forever. However, because we could also say it's made up of two rays, it is an angle. But this is a special angle. And this is what we call a straight angle because it's a straight line. And so if I were to add that to my definitions here, a straight angle equals exactly 180 degrees. It's basically if I were to put a 90-degree angle with another 90-degree angle. So if I were to take this side with the other side, if I did this real quick here, I know this one is also a right angle. If I took those two right angles, notice at the bottom I have a straight line. So that would be a straight angle. Okay, so that is the first couple things in today's lesson that I want you to be aware of, is the types of angles that we have. Right angles, obtuse angles, acute angles, and straight angles. The second part of what we're going to do is actually being able to draw them. So I have a blank piece of paper here, and to draw an angle, I'm just going to start with a straight edge. So I could draw a straight line. I could put a ray on it, make it a ray. So I have a vertex, I have a point, and I want to call this angle ABC. Now, if you remember yesterday, this B is very important because that has to be the vertex. Now I can go ahead and make my right angle. I'm using my template that I created earlier, and I've already lined up the bottom with one side of the template, and now I'm just going to trace the other side and mark that. So I know this is a right angle, and I can put A, I got B as my vertex, and C as the other point. So I have angle ABC. Well, what if I wanted to make an acute angle? So let's see, I want to make acute angle, and we're going to label it angle XYZ. Based on what we've done so far, I'm going to draw a ray. And I know my vertex, with a common point here, has to be the letter Y. So I'm going to put a Y here. I could actually put the Z right here if I wanted to. And I need to make sure that it is less than the 90 degrees. So if I line up the one side, I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere in here, but this is in the way now. So I just made a little mark here so I know that I don't want to connect those two. I could make it, I'm going to just dot one there. I could make it there, or I could even come down all the way here as well. Anywhere between the first ray that I drew and this mark, anywhere in that area would be an acute angle. So if I were to just go ahead and make this one my other ray, and I could label that with an X. So now I have angle X, Y, Z. And we put a little arc in there, and we'll talk more about that later on in a future lesson. So we've done a right angle, we've done an acute angle. How about an obtuse angle? And I want to label my obtuse angle JKL. I bet you all know right now what we're going to do. We always start with a ray, straight line. Now think about what point is this going to be called? The vertex is going to be named what point? That's right, it should be point K, because K is our middle letter of our angle, of our name, and that middle letter is always the vertex. That's important. So this one we want obtuse, so we want it greater than 90 degrees. So here's my template that I made, and I don't want to make it right here. I want to open it up more, so it's more than. So if I go right there, that should work. So now I have J, K, and I can put the L over here. So this is an obtuse angle. So I've drawn a right angle, an acute angle, and an obtuse angle. And I've already shown you how to do a straight angle. So those are the points of today's lesson. So what you're going to do is in your book, you're going to turn to, first of all, you're going to start with the application problem, which is on page 5. And this is a review of yesterday. Sorry about that. And we have a couple things to do here. And then you have to identify some angles here as acute, right, or obtuse. And notice that they start small and they get bigger as they go along here. So make sure that you are checking with your template that you make, or I did use a square corner of and I would say not one that you cut, but a factory corner. I like to call these factory corners. So I can use that as a measurement and line it up to see if it's a right angle or less than or more than. So you have some matching to do here. And then on this page you have a picture. You have to use your right angle template to identify some acute, obtuse, and right angles in this painting by Picasso, and trace 2 of each and label them with points. So you're going to label them with your own points, and you're going to put them down here in the boxes. And then you have an opportunity to draw your own angles using a straight edge in your template. So an acute angle, a right angle, and an obtuse angle. And then just like yesterday, you're going to do your exit ticket. I would encourage you to do it here first, and then you're going to, again, submit that online through the link provided in the assignment to, and again, that's going to say quiz, but it's should also have the title of Lesson 2 Exit Ticket. So that is today's lesson, and if you have any questions, please email me. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. All right.